The Disappointment Podcast, Episode 4. My name is Sang. I'm a professional disappointment. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It is not meant to give medical advice and professional health recommendations. If you or anyone you know is struggling with ill health, be it physical and or mental, please seek help from your nearest hospitals and clinics. You are on a flight to Budapest for a summer holiday when you heard a scream from the front row. "Help! Is there a doctor on the plane?" You saw a lady, she's the doctor. She came rushed through from the rear end of the plane. A 62-year-old passenger had collapsed on the floor and stopped breathing. She could not feel his carotid pulse and began chest compression. The crew rushed in with an automated defibrillator and took over the chest compression. The doctor attached the defibrillator pads to the passenger's chest. A shock was then delivered. The passenger regained consciousness but still short of breath. The doctor began her A to E assessment. She found reduced breath sounds on auscultation with her stethoscope on the upper right chest of the passenger. She then percussed the area and it was hyper-resonant. "Tension pneumothorax," she whispered to herself. "I'll need a wide-bore cannula," she said. Well, of course, there's none of that on the plane. So she said to bring out a bottle of whiskey, a plastic straw, and a sharp pen. She poured the whiskey over the passenger's chest, also over the pen and the straw to sanitize them. Aiming at the second intercostal space mid-clavicular line, she inserts the pen at 90 degrees angle and followed through the puncture with the straw. After both the pen and the straw were in the chest, she pulled back on the pen, leaving only the straw behind. All of a sudden, she heard loud gasps of air and a sign of relief on the passenger's face. The tension pneumothorax was successfully released. The doctor had saved the man's life. Other passengers began cheering and clapping for her. The captain opted for an emergency landing at the nearby hospital. The passenger was brought to the hospital and made good recovery within 3 days. Does all of this sound familiar? You've probably seen something like this on the media, TV shows, movies, where doctors went above and beyond to save a life. They carry out difficult medical procedures with utmost precision and expertise, because they are world-renowned surgeons who are very good at their jobs but suck at maintaining their personal life and probably has multiple speeding tickets waiting in the mailbox. They are talented but rebellious at the same time, which makes them even more sexier. All of these are romanticization of doctors, or rather, what the public likes to see, because we like dramas. Only if it's other people's dramas. In the real world, it is far from ideal and borderline dark, even darker than you think. Here's the first truth. Doctors rarely save lives. On some specific occasions, doctors are able to resuscitate patients who are essentially dead and save their life. But this rarely happens. Most of the time, when the heart stops, there's a very slim chance that anyone will be able to bring back the patient. I've seen multiple cardiac arrest situations and was involved in some, all of which was unsuccessful and the patient ultimately died. The last patient I was involved with was a lady who came in with chest infection and was well throughout her admission. Whilst doing the morning ward round, the emergency buzzer went on and one of the nurses was already doing a chest compression by the time we got there. Soon the crash team came in and we began resuscitating the patient. After an hour of chest compression and multiple shocks, she died without having the chance to say goodbye to her family. Her morning cup of tea was still warm right beside her bed. She could not even finish her morning tea. In real life, doctors and other healthcare professionals follow strict protocols and will not deviate from them unless they're extremely confident and know 100% for sure what they are doing. So you won't see doctors go above and beyond like the scenario on the plane I've mentioned earlier, because if something goes wrong, they are liable. You may say that there's the Good Samaritan law that protects people who exhibit altruistic behaviors, whose pure intention is to save other people's life. But let's take the aforementioned pneumothorax case. If the patient ends up dying from a chest infection because the pen was not sanitized properly, or if she accidentally hit an artery causing massive bleeding, somebody's going to put the blame on that doctor. It's sad but true. So if they don't save lives on a daily basis, what do they do then? This brings me to the second truth: paperwork. Unless you're working in remote and rural medicine or deprived areas of the world swarmed with injustice, poverty, and epidemics, most doctors in most urban hospital or clinics do a lot of administration work, i.e., paperwork such as discharge letters, transfer letters, referral letters, court reports, filing in various certificates, dictating patient contact notes, updating medical progress notes, requesting scans, requesting blood tests, filling out more forms, etc. And believe me, these paperwork never ends, no matter how high you are in the hierarchy. The paperwork is so bad that newly graduated doctors in certain countries are called glorified admin workers. But you can't blame them because medical students are taught that what they write on the record is more important than what they do. The third truth: doctors might do more harm than good, of course without the intention of doing so. First, do no harm. This is perhaps the most important ethical value that all doctors keep in mind. The entire goal of medical school is to produce safe doctors that will adhere to standardized protocols and toe the line for the safety of themselves and their patients. However, more doctors are questioning their own actions and wonder if they are actually doing more harm than good. Let me walk through with you the facts. First of all, polypharmacy. Polypharmacy means prescribing patients with 5 or more medications. Modern medicine treats the symptoms as they appear, like patching a leaking bowl with tapes every time a new leakage happens. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're a doctor. A 53-year-old gentleman visits your clinic complaining of increasing tiredness and thirst. You take a thorough history and found that he has a family history of type 2 diabetes. On examination, he appears generally well but obese with BMI of 32. His blood pressure was also elevated. You began to worry about metabolic syndrome, so you order a few blood tests and advise him to come back in 1 week's time for the results. 1 week later, the results show that he is pre-diabetic and his LDL, which is the bad cholesterol level, is very high, which will increase the chance of him having heart disease in the future. You advise him on basic lifestyle modifications, things like eating better, sleeping better, exercise more, managing stress, blah, blah, blah. He agrees to try that and come back in 6 months' time for a repeat blood test. 6 months later, he's back in the clinic and his blood results are even worse than before. You discuss with him about starting him on medications to control his blood sugar level, his blood pressure, and also his cholesterol level. He agrees with you, so you prescribe him metformin, ramipril, and atorvastatin at initial low doses. You set for him to come back for a repeat blood test in 6 to 8 weeks' time. The following week, he had a heart attack and was admitted to the hospital. He recovered within 2 weeks, and as part of the protocol to prevent further heart attacks in the future, the hospital doctor prescribes him with blood-thinning medications like aspirin or clopidogrel. I've not been keeping up with the current guidelines, but I've heard that it is now recommended for patients to take dual antiplatelet therapy. So he'll probably get both aspirin and clopidogrel, which he'll usually have to take lifelong. So that's 6 medications now he needs to take every day. Because of his advanced age and obesity, he suffers from joint pain, which greatly impacts his daily function. You, as his doctor, further prescribe him paracetamol and ibuprofen for him to use when needed. So that's 6 regular medication plus 2 more medications as needed for pain. As time goes by, his physical health gets worse. Coupled with the joint pain, which is uncontrolled by both the painkillers you gave, he began experiencing low mood and suicidal thoughts. You administered the PHQ-9 questionnaire, and he was found out to be moderately depressed. He would like the dark thoughts to go away. He wants to try an antidepressant. So you prescribe him a starting dose of sertraline, which is one of the first-line antidepressants, for him to take once daily every day. To control the joint pain, you change the ibuprofen to regular instead of as needed. Ibuprofen and other medications in the family of NSAIDs, which stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, are known to irritate the stomach wall, so you prescribe a medication to protect the stomach wall called omeprazole. Now he's on 8 regular medications. As mentioned earlier in episode 2, metabolic syndrome can lead to problems with the heart and kidneys. The regular medication that he's on, namely metformin, ramipril, aspirin, and ibuprofen, all damages the kidney in the long run. Coupled with the ongoing uncontrolled metabolic syndrome, you can see that the kidney will not be happy at all. With the antidepressant, the patient gets numerous side effects such as dizziness and diarrhea. The dizziness worsens, and one day when he had to rush to go to the toilet, he fell down from the stairs and broke his hip. He needed surgery to fix the broken hip. After the surgery, he was transferred to the ward for observation. He then fell ill with hospital-acquired pneumonia, which is chest infection caused by prolonged stay in hospital, and required a 7-day course of antibiotics. Fortunately, his chest infection improved, and he was eventually discharged home. However, the joint pain gets worse. He comes back to you and asks for stronger painkiller because the paracetamol and ibuprofen you gave is no longer enough for the pain. So you decide to give a stronger painkiller, like an opioid. Opioid makes him drowsier, and now he's addicted to opioids. The technical term is dependence. The cycle of misery continues. I could go on and on and on, but I'll spare you the details. You can already see how the prognosis of the patient of yours is not that good. If you are the doctor, will you question yourself and how your actions might do more harm than good? but you did nothing wrong. You are following all the guidelines and protocols. If polypharmacy is not doing any good for you or your patients, who's benefiting from all of this? I think you know who. This brings me to my next point. Healthcare has become a multi-million-dollar industry. You may have heard that if you want to be rich, then don't be a doctor. That's very true for junior doctors, but it's a whole other narrative if you're a consultant or when you work in the private sector. People now get into medicine for one of two things: money or prestige. Money might come by later in life, but boy, the prestige is instant. The title doctor in front of your name surely brings about whole body orgasms in some people. It feels good to be above other people in the society. It feels good to be able to brag about your job to your friends and family. It feels good to be seen as heroes. But where are your patients in all of this? Oops. Every business will only care about one thing and one thing only: profit. This raises the question of overtreatment, unnecessary medical procedures, and health inequities. Those with more money will get access to better health care, while the poor are stuck with understaffed, underfunded, second-class hospitals and clinics where doctors are overworked, underpaid, and on the brink of burning out so bad that they've lost all hope and drive of actually helping people because they could not even save themselves. You may argue that some doctors really want to help people. While this is true, isn't there many other ways to help people? The fourth truth is that everyone is selfish, not just doctors. When applying to medical school, one of the favorite interview questions is why choose medicine? And one of the most common answers is that they want to help people. Why not be a nurse or a social worker instead if you want to help people? In fact, nurses have more patient contact than doctors. They run the wards and provide real patient care. Doctors just come and go. Social workers deal with the social problems that affect health. They advocate for vulnerable groups of people in society, those victims of abuse, orphans, refugees, and help alleviate their suffering to a level. Why be a doctor? It's the money or the prestige, period. Being called a nurse or a social worker does not give the same full body orgasm as being called a doctor. That's all. And there's nothing wrong with this. Humans need to find their place in the society. They have to fulfill certain roles in the society. That's just how the way it works. Nobody in the world is truly selfless. Everyone has their own agenda. Even helping other people is a selfish agenda, because by being helpful to others, we feel a sense of purpose and satisfaction. It makes us feel good. It's okay to want money and fame, but not to the extent that it will affect the safety of yourself and other people. The final truth is that there are no free will in medicine. Medical students were likely primed to choose medicine. The TV shows you watch, the family members you talk to, the good and bad experiences in your life, the grades in your high school, all contribute to your decision. The real question is, was your decision an informed one? In medical ethics, doctors have the duty to make sure that all patients receive all the information for them to make an informed decision. They need to know the risk and benefits of a treatment and also the consequences of refusing a treatment. Patients must have the capacity to make the informed decision. Capacity means that the patient needs to be able to understand, retain, and process all the information you have given to them. If the society has been primed, especially by the media, showing only the glamorous side of being a doctor, will younger generations be able to make an informed decision regarding their future careers in medicine? Nothing in this world is glamorous or ugly. It is just what it is. Humans decide what is glamorous or not. And worse than that is the fact that their decision is not even their own. Thank you for listening. If you like the contents of our podcast, be sure to like, share, and subscribe every episode on this channel. I do apologize if any words or information were wrong and will take into consideration for future episodes. Thank you for listening.